It didn't come with a warning. No headline, no debate, just a line on your payslip. Tier 1. Another 6% gone. They called it savings, security, but it felt like theft. In a country where public trust bleeds faster than paychecks, how do you trust a system that's failed before? From Nairobi's high-rises to the matatus of Kayole, Kenyans aren't just losing money, they're losing faith in NSSF. This is more than a deduction, it's a quiet war on the working class. In 1965, just 2 years after independence, the Kenyan government introduced the National Social Security Fund. It wasn't just a fund, it was a promise. A new Kenya would protect its workers from poverty and old age. But over the years, that promise began to crack. The NSSF evolved, but not always in favor of the people. The 2013 reforms were supposed to transform the NSSF into a pension powerhouse. But for over a decade, legal battles delayed its rollout, until suddenly, in 2024, it was enforced. According to the Federation of Kenya Employers, the new deductions hit workers hard, especially those earning below 10,000 Kenyan shillings. What was meant to be protection began to feel more like punishment. And yet, the fund has grown. As of 2023, the NSSF held over 310 billion Kenyan shillings in assets. That's public money. Your money. My money. But where has it gone? In 2013, the fund lost over 5 billion shillings in the Tasia 2 housing project, money that vanished through overpriced land and questionable tenders. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission opened investigations, but no one was jailed. No refunds were made. Just silence. Today, less than 17% of Kenyans are even enrolled in the formal sector, the only ones eligible to contribute. That leaves the majority, the hawker, the boda rider, the house help, outside the safety net. So who is the NSSF really protecting? The more you look, the more the promise of protection begins to feel like a quiet betrayal.
Let the government come out clearly and assure Kenyan workers that your money at the NSSF is safe.
They told us this was for our future. That Tier 1 was the foundation of dignity in retirement. But how do you trust a fund that's been marred by scandal after scandal? From the 2004 Anglo leasing echoes to the 2013 Tasia land fraud scandal that cost over 5 billion shillings, the National Social Security Fund has often made headlines for all the wrong reasons. Even as recent as 2021, the Auditor General flagged NSSF for irregular investments, losses that ate into members' funds. Now, imagine you're a 24-year-old worker, earning 15,000 shillings a month. Almost 1,000 shillings of that is deducted. But where does it go? How much reaches your retirement account? What guarantees do you have that 30 years from now, it'll still be there? Public trust in NSSF is startlingly low. According to a 2023 TIFA poll, only 22% of Kenyans said they had strong confidence in how the fund is managed. That's less than a quarter of contributors. It's not just theft, it's the silence after, the lack of transparency, the opaque audit reports, the legal battles, the absence of criminal convictions. To many, NSSF isn't a savings scheme. It's a mandatory tax, paid, forgotten, and feared. In the streets of Gikomba, Kibra, and Kongowea, work never stops. But beneath the hustle lies a truth often ignored by policymakers. While Kenya's informal sector contributes over 80% of total employment and accounts for nearly 35% of GDP, Kenya Economic Survey 2023, it remains largely excluded from meaningful protection under NSSF reforms. In theory, everyone, boda riders, tailors, welders, is now legally required to remit monthly NSSF contributions. But, in reality, the compliance infrastructure simply doesn't exist. There are no streamlined collection systems, no sensitization, no simplified portals, no trust. And the few who do try to contribute, many are turned away for lacking formal employer codes. Others are told to register through self-service portals that crash or are inaccessible on basic mobile phones. A 2022 report by the Federation of Kenya Employers highlighted that nearly 9 out of 10 informal workers didn't even know how to enroll. And those who did feared they'd never see their money again. "We are contributing into a black hole," says a hawker interviewed in Machakos. "At least with Chama, I can see my money." Meanwhile, NSSF's new Tier 1 and Tier 2 system still orbits around formal payroll structures, excluding the very people it claimed to include. This isn't just poor design. It's economic erasure masquerading as reform. You can't build trust on deductions. That's the unspoken reality millions of Kenyans feel every payday. The government says NSSF is for your future, but history has shown, again and again, that the fund has become a machine of mistrust. Let's rewind. In the early 90s, NSSF was involved in the Tasia 2 land scandal, a deal so murky that the fund bought land it already owned, at twice the price. According to the 2004 Ndungu Land Report, the acquisition reeked of corruption and collusion between senior state officers and land cartels. Then came 2001, when NSSF invested billions in Eurobank, only for the bank to collapse shortly after, swallowing 256 million Kenyan shillings of workers' money. The Public Investments Committee, PIC, in Parliament later flagged the deal as a textbook case of poor due diligence or outright fraud. Fast forward to 2021. The Auditor General flagged 12.5 billion Kenyan shillings in questionable investments, including overpriced properties, uncollected rents, and money channeled into untraceable real estate ventures. The report reads like a confession. Numerous investments by the fund lack valuation, have no return profile, or are held in inactive companies. So when the new NSSF Act forces workers into Tier 1 and Tier 2 contributions, Kenyans are not angry about saving. They're angry about who they're saving with. In a 2023 Afrobarometer report, only 28% of Kenyans said they trusted government-managed pension funds. In a 2022 Twaweza East Africa survey, 71% of citizens said they feared they'd never access their full benefits. And yet, these are the same citizens forced to part with more, under threat of fines, legal action, or blocked services. To many, this law is not about retirement. It's a modern form of payroll extraction, enforced by a system that has proven, time and again, that it cannot be trusted. They call it Social Security. But for many Kenyans, what the NSSF offers isn't security. It's an illusion. On paper, your monthly deduction is an investment, a promise, a future cushion. But in reality, it feels more like a forced donation to a system you're unlikely to benefit from. Let's take a real example. A Kenyan earning 15,000 Kenyan shillings under the new law now contributes 1,080 Kenyan shillings monthly, split with their employer. That's nearly 13,000 Kenyan shillings a year. Over a decade? Over 130,000 Kenyan shillings. But what's the return? Try calling NSSF today and asking what your account balance is, or when you can access it, or what interest it has earned. Most likely, you will get silence, or muddled answers and outdated systems. In 2022, an internal audit by the Ministry of Labor found that over 60% of contributors had inaccurate or missing statements. Some were overcredited, many were undercredited, and for others, the contributions were missing entirely. Meanwhile, the system is still paper-heavy, decades behind in digitization. In an age of mobile money and blockchain, many NSSF files still sit in physical cabinets, vulnerable to tampering, loss, or decay. Now, layer in inflation. What 500 Kenyan shillings meant in 2013 is not what it means in 2024. Yet, most contributions remain unadjusted for real-world purchasing power, which means, even if you receive your pension, it may be worth far less than what you put in. Then, there's the fine print. Withdrawals before retirement? Highly restricted. For the informal sector, registration is complicated and unclear. For the unemployed, contributions stop, but penalties may not. It's a system that assumes employment is permanent, that trust exists, that institutions work. But in Kenya, for millions of workers, especially the youth, that's far from reality. So when NSSF demands more, without showing value, it feels like a tax dressed up as savings. Pension system is supposed to build trust in the long term. But right now, NSSF is delivering the exact opposite. A future that feels increasingly uncertain. If Kenya's National Social Security Fund was built to be a safety net, it's now fraying at every seam. But before we ask how to fix it, we must first ask, is it even fixable? Or are we simply patching holes in a sinking ship? From the outside, it seems fixable. The blueprint is clear. Kenya could follow the Chile model, where personal retirement accounts are individually managed and strictly audited, or adopt the Scandinavian standard, where pension funds are insulated from politics entirely, managed by professional institutions, not politicians in tailored suits and hidden motives. But Kenya isn't just lacking structure, it's bleeding trust. Every scandal leaves a scar. Remember the Tasia land saga, where billions were sunk into land with unclear ownership? Or the 2021 Auditor General's report, which flagged nearly 13 billion Kenyan shillings in suspect investments? And what of the 2019 NSSF housing project that stalled mid-construction, after nearly all the funds had vanished? These aren't bugs in the system, they're features. Because in Kenya, systems are often not broken by accident. They are broken by design, so they can be controlled by the few. And so workers keep contributing, month after month, not to secure their future, but to fatten the wallets of those who run the present. Meanwhile, the informal sector, which makes up 83% of Kenya's workforce, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, remains excluded, confused, or coerced. Efforts to enroll them have focused more on collection than communication. You can't force people to trust you with their money, especially when you've never earned that trust. But it doesn't have to end this way. Change is possible. Countries like Rwanda, Botswana, and Namibia have built pension systems where transparency is default, not demanded, where contributors receive real-time updates and public audits are not feared, but embraced. Kenya can do the same, but not with the same leaders, not with the same habits, not with the same silence. In the end, the story of NSSF is not just about money. It's about promises, made, broken, and forgotten. It's about workers who gave their sweat to build a nation, only to be told they never paid enough. It's about a system that once said, "We'll protect your future," but instead became just another way to steal the present. So we ask again, who is the fund really serving? The people who pay into it? Or the people who play with it? In a country where survival is already a daily negotiation, trust isn't a luxury. It's everything. Until transparency becomes louder than silence, the trap remains open, legal, and Tier 1.